Hello, my little pretties. What is up? It's your mistress, the Queen of Lions here, and welcome back to another episode of Shadows and Pretties. Now, today, this is episode 29 of the series, and last episode, we talked about Hotel Transylvania, the first and the second movie. I did talk about a little bit about the third movie, but there is yet to be a fourth movie in the works, which it could be, something. I really don't know what the fourth movie is going to be about yet, but I just hope the fourth one becomes good. That's all I can definitely say about it. So, without further ado, today we're going to read and do another Halloween movie. We are going to talk about today. So, since this is episode 29 and we're in spooky month, which I did talk about a few Halloween movies. Now, today I found another Halloween movie from 1993 that I actually want to talk about. So, most of us have probably seen this when you were kids. Like, I'm sure most of you guys have seen it when you were children. Probably were scared of it as a young kid. But it's a Disney movie at that. And today we are going to do a movie called Hocus Pocus. Now, it's an American horror fantasy comedy film that was directed by Kenny Ortega. And, of course, it's been written by many other people, and it stars some, certain people. It stars, Betty Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, Kathy Magenere, with lots of other, characters who are in the role. So, but, of course, this episode takes place in Salem, in Massachusetts. So, yeah, we're gonna get to that. So, of course, this came out in 1993 by Walt Disney, and the film received mixed reviews from critics and from the time its release. It was not critical or commercial success upon its release date, possibly losing Disney around maybe $16.5 million during the theatrical run. So, of course, there is a sequel directed by Adam Shankman as a development as a Disney Plus original film. But today we're just going to focus on the original Hocus Pocus, the Hocus Pocus movie, which I'm sure most of us have seen this many times as a kid. I'm sure most of us, who seen this as a kid. So, without even further ado, we are gonna, let's begin with the plot of this movie. Now, first of all, I would like to give you, spoil warnings. If you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend you check out this movie if you haven't done so already. So, without any further ado, I guess let's begin with with it, shall we? So, of course, it takes place on October 31st in 1693, just outside of Salem, Massachusetts. Thackeray Binks, who sees his little sister Emily being taken away to the cottage of three witches. Yeah, I can definitely say that some of these, witches in there kind of remind me of the Hex Girls a little bit because they're a trio, but at the same time, the Hex Girls are not evil, so just thought I'd point out. So there, the Sanderson Sisters, Winifred, Sarah, and Mary, cast a spell on Emily to absorb her youth and regain by killing her in the process. So Thackeray confronts the witches, who of course gets transformed into an immortal black cat, cursed to be live forever with the guilt for not saving Emily. So, of course, the townsfolk by the Thackeray's friend, Ijah and his father, capture the witches, but before being hanged, Winifred casts a spell that will resurrect the witches during the full moon on All Hallows Eve. When any virgin lights when the black flame candle, unable to convince the father with his true identity as a cat, Thackeray decides to guard the cottage to ensure no one summons the witches. Of course, 300 years later, on Halloween, Max is feeling unsettled by his family's sudden move from Los Angeles, California, to Salem, Massachusetts. Max then takes his younger sister Danny to go out trick-or-treating, where they run into Max's new crush, Allison. So Allison, mentions that her family owns a Sanderson cottage as a museum, but it's now closed, and Max was now effort to impress Allison by invites her to show them to the Anderson house to convince them that witches were real. So while investigating the cottage, Max lit the black flame candle and individually resurrects the witches, who has to continue sucking the souls of every children in the asylum to continue living or else they disintegrate. So the witches attempt to suck on the soul out of Danny, but Max comes to the rescue and escapes. But of course, Max steals Winifred's spell book and advice from Thackeray, who now his last name is Binks, and of course the witches pursue them on a cemetery where Winifred raises her unfaithful lover Billy Butcherson as a zombie just to chase them on foot. Now, I could definitely say that when I saw this movie as a kid, I really was scared of this movie back when I was, like, really young. Even though I was maybe, I don't know, maybe 6 when I saw it, maybe 7. I was scared of this when I was a kid, but, now as an adult, or I stopped being scared of them when I got older, I realized that, this is just not real, which of course it isn't. This is just a story, so it's a fictional story, but it is a pretty interesting one in the process, so... The witches, of course, acclimate to the 20th century, but are horrified when they discover that Halloween had become a holiday. So they pursue two children across town using Mary's enchanted sense of smell. Max, Danny, and Allison find their parents out at the town hall at a Halloween party. It's where Winifred enchants the partygoers. They dance until they die at Jacob Bailey's high school. Now the children get trapped in the witches and the killer to burn them alive, while the children were celebrated. So the witch's curse revives them again. Not realizing that the witches hadn't truly died, Max and Allison opens up the spell book to reverse the spell on Binks, but the open spell book reveals the location of the group. So the witches have to track them down, and they kidnap Danny and Binks and to get the book back. And then Sarah then uses her siren-like singing to mesmerize the Salem's children, luring them into Sanderson's cottage. So, of course, Max and Allison rescue Danny and Binks by tricking the witches into believing that the sunrise came an hour early. Yeah, of course, sunrise doesn't come an hour early nowadays, so I could definitely see, that why. So, just thought, let you guys know. But without further ado, when they get to the cemetery, Max runs into Billy, who has cuts and stitches open his mouth, and insults Winifred, joining Max to protect Danny. Of course, the witch is attacked, and Winifred attempts to suck the life out of soul from Danny with the single vial of potion she retrieved from the cauldron. Binks, of course, leaps onto Winifred and knocks the potion out of her hand onto Max, but he is then thrown into the ground and injured on the spot, while his sister's Emily's grave, rather than smashing the vial, Max drinks it in order to force the witches to take him instead of Danny. Now, the sun rises just as Winifred was about to finish draining Max's life force due to the standing hollow on the ground of the cemetery. She turns into the stone statue before she is disintegrated into dust along with her sisters. So when the witches are gone, Max, Danny, and Allison say goodbye to Billy, who is the zombie, but of course helped them, and he gets to their grave and returns to sleep. When Binks finally dies, freeing his soul, appearing as spectacle, Facky thanks Max, Danny, and Allison for their help and their bids farewell and to reunite with the spirits of his little sister Emily. The gate door opens and Facky and Emily walk through the heaven along with Max and Danny and Allison. They were happily twitched day apart, but they fade away as the gate closes. So of course, the partygoers and including Max, Danny's parents, Dave and Jenny are freed from the spell is broken and they return home. Obviously, by their enchantment, of course, at the Sanderson's cottage, Ice and Jay, who had previously tormented Max and Danny, were captured by the witches after infinitely insulting them and remained prisoned in their cages, saying, "Row, row your boat to pass the time." So Winnie's spellbook is opening its eye, revealing that it's alive, but there's also a possibility that the witches could return again. So that was Hocus Pocus. Now, I actually found this movie to be rather good and amazing as a young kid. For those who grew up in the 90s, probably have remembered seeing this movie, when you were younger. Probably were scared of it. Like, when I was a kid, I was scared of this movie. So I'm pretty sure most of you guys probably have been scared of this movie when you were a kid. So that's definitely, something to say. I remember seeing this movie when I was a kid, and it really scared me. But, the first time I watched it. But the other times I watch it, I became not so very scared of this anymore. I don't know why, but I just got over being scared of this. And to be completely honest, I actually found the movie to be rather amazing and really well done. In a matter of ways, I'm going to go over what I liked about it. Now, the characters like Winifred, Fred, Sarah, and Mary, the witches, were actually pretty interesting. And of course, I like the character Max, I like the Danny character, I even like the Allison character. Those characters were really cool, and I do like the characters in it. So, of course, seeing Sean Murray as Thackeray Binks, who was pretty amazing, seen as Binks at this Thackeray Binks, but of course, the movie itself was actually really amazing and well done. I actually found the movie to be rather good, but not only just that, I actually found this one to be perfect for Halloween. Like, now it's like almost every Halloween, I would sit there and watch nothing more but Hocus Pocus and some other movies. The characters did a pretty good job, I'm gonna admit and not gonna lie. The characters did a very good job, and the acting was just very well done and made. I actually found the acting to be quite amazing. Despite the fact that, this was actually made in, the 90s, it's still a really fantastic and really good movie. So if you guys have children, or if you guys are kids, and you happen to, were kids at the time, per se, pardon me about that, you probably have remembered this. Now, I remember watching this, like, at high school, and even in elementary school when I was a kid, and I remember getting scared by it just to be scared silly, perhaps. But this is actually one of the biggest reasons why I love Halloween, is because one of the reasons being that Hocus Pocus is actually a really amazing movie at this time. However, I am going to say right now that this movie was in development for a very long time, so of course let's get started. So, in the 1994 TV documentary The Hocus Pocus Began the Magic, and it is on the Blu-ray release, of course, David Dick, he said he came up with the idea for a film one night, and he had his youngest daughter was sitting outside the neighbor's black cat strayed by a person, and invented a tale of how the cat was once a boy who changed into a feline for 300 years by the witches. So Hocus Pocus started out as a script by Mick Garris, and was brought into the Walt Disney Pictures back in 1984. Oh my goodness, 1984, that was like, oh my god, almost 10 years ago before the movie was made back then. And the film would start working on the tales of Disney's Halloween House, which was much more darker and scarier, and its protagonists were all 12-year-olds. Garris and, of course, they pitched it to Steve Spielberg's Alblin Entertainment, and of course, Spielberg saw Disney competitor at the time, and of course, they refused to co-produce the film as his rival. So, of course, they were going to do this and release it back in 1984, but they pushed it back to a couple years later. So, of course, various rewrites were have to make of the script to make it more comedic for its young protagonists into teenagers, but however, its production was stalled several times until 1992, when Betty Midler expresses her interest in the script, and project immediately went forward. So Midler, who plays the central antagonist of the film, was originally written for Cloris Lynchman, is quoted that saying that Hocus Pocus was the most fun in my career up to that point. So, of course, the filming began around 1992, and the film is set in Salem, Massachusetts, but of course, the production was finally complete until in February 10th, 1993, so it took about almost a year for them to make the filming and stuff. So, they released it in VHS in North America in 1994, and then they set it on DVD in 2002. But of course, they continued the strong sales, and this movie is still going on to this very day. And surprisingly enough, even though this movie is like almost 30 years old, it's still a really well done and really well made movie. I have to say, when of course there was a sequel to this, I really don't know about the sequel actually existed, but of course the sequel was announced in 2014, but of course, but then later on, as it goes on, of course, there is an upcoming sequel that was going to be released, but of course, we don't really know for sure about the sequel yet, because I have not seen the sequel to Hocus Pocus, because, well, I don't know, but the thing what I liked about this movie was that the witches itself were really scary and really well made. Like, I love their outfits in the movie. Their outfits are really well made, and not only that, they were just actually well made and detailed, but they were actually pretty cool, and they were played by really awesome actresses that came to be in the film. The plot of itself was just absolutely amazing and very well made. But I really have to say that the characters itself, like Danny and all that, they were really cool characters in that time. Now, the Hocus Pocus movie, I remember this being one of the good Halloween movies, along with other movies such as, well, I'm just gonna say right now, there are other movies these that Disney had made that were Halloween related, but of course there was a non-Disney movie that I really liked, and that one was, well, The Nightmare Before Christmas. I actually, surprisingly enough, it came out the same year The Nightmare Before Christmas did. And I actually found this movie to be rather made, really well done, and I honestly found this movie to be quite amazing. Especially for a Halloween film. If you're a fan of Halloween, then this is probably the best movie for you, as it's a really good Disney movie. I don't have it on DVD yet, but I am considering on getting it on DVD if I can ever find it again. Now, of course, there is a chance I could possibly find this movie again, even though it's an old movie. I'm gonna say right now it's an old movie. It's a really well done movie, in fact, but it's also a childhood for me to remember of how good this movie was back then. And that is something I'm definitely really proud of, is that the movie, whenever it came out, it was absolutely amazing, very well done and made. And I have to say, when I first watched this movie, I was scared of it as a kid, but when I got older, it was really well made and well done. And not only that, it was actually very well made. And I have to say that when I saw this, like, on DVD on a friend's house, I actually was scared of it. That's how I became scared of it. But then I got older and I realized how good this movie was, and it was just very good and well made. And not only that, I actually found this movie to be rather enjoyable and awesome. So if you guys are a fan of this movie and you would really like to see it, I highly recommend you go ahead and, basically really watch this movie if you guys really want to. If you guys want to see this movie, feel free to look it up, as you will not be disappointed when you see this movie. I like the characters in there. I like the concept. I even like the witches in this. The witches in this were just flat out amazing. So without further ado, before I wrap up this episode of Shadows and Pretties, I want to say right now that we're almost at 30 episodes of Shadows and Pretties, just so you guys know. And if you guys really enjoyed this, episode of Shadows and Pretties, let me know in the comments down below, give me a thumbs up, and even let me know what you think of it. So what do you guys think about this movie? Did you all enjoy it? Did you not? Did you think that this is really scared here? Did you think you were really scared or something? And, well, yeah. And also, what would you have done to personally make this, movie, Hocus Pocus, a lot better? Leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. If you guys are new to my channel, be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button down below, and don't forget to ring the bell for notification to know when I upload. I'm the Queen of Lions. Be sure you did what I just said if you're new to my channel and if you're wanting to look for some new content and stuff. And I'll be catching you all in the next video. Peace out, and I'll see you all in the next video.